Todorov was a five-part narrative talking about the equilibrium and the disequilibrium and the restoration of balance and how to explain it, the finding of balance, the seeing, the recognizing that the balance is being destroyed. Also, props idea. We have 8 characters. We have the villain, the hero, the princess, the donor, the dispatcher, the false hero, and the father. My film is Forrest Gump. It's taken me many hours to analyze and break it down into whose role is what. There are some characters in here that have more than one role, and there are a few characters who only have one role. It's an interesting field of search, really. It's very interesting to see. In this, I'll be going through the different parts, really. I'll be going through the hero, the villain, the donor, etc., and then I'll be going through Todorov's theory and Vladimir Prop's theory.
I've worn lots of shoes. I bet if I think about it real hard, I could remember my first pair of shoes. Mama said they'd take me anywhere. She said they was my magic shoes.
All right, Forrest. You can open your eyes now.
And here we have the donor. The only donor that I can see so far throughout this film is the doctor at the beginning of the film. Forrest and I think the doctor or his mum called them his magic shoes. He had braces on his legs to support his back, which is crooked like a question mark, if I have to quote it. It's pretty brief. The doctor puts the braces on Forrest's legs to support his legs and his back. I read online the donor in any film is the one who bestows a magical gift upon a hero. So Forrest is the hero of this whole thing. So, magic shoes, the donor gives a magical object to Forrest. So the doctor has bestowed this onto him. So this doctor is the only donor I can see so far. Maybe Jenny as well, because she gave him those Nikes for, I don't know if it was a Christmas present or it was just a present. And then that started off his whole running scheme, he went off to run. I know it didn't start much. I mean, he just wore those everywhere pretty much, so that started something in a sense. The helper is a person who, well, it's in the name, isn't it? It helps the main character, it helps the hero. Helps him overcome any obstacles, helps him by giving advice, bestowing wisdom, all of this. I found 3 helpers in this story. One is the more important than the 2 others, I'd say. Well, 2 are more important than 1. But the main one, who is his mum, is the main important because it's his mum. Jenny. There's a spot where they were kids, but in the past, after he meets Jenny for the first time on a school bus.
I'm Forrest Gump.
There's a scene where they're running towards a tree, and he talks about how she
taught me how to climb. She helped me learn how to read.
Just helping him learn. Then we have Baba. There's a scene in Vietnam where the soldiers are all in some part of the forest at night, and they're in the mud. Baba comes up behind Forrest and says, "Hey, Forrest.
I'm gonna lean up against you. You just lean right back against me. This way we don't have to sleep with our heads in the mud."
That's a way of helping. And plus, Bubba's his best friend. So in that sense, Bubba is a helper. But most importantly, we have Forrest's mum. She tells him he is no different from anybody else.
Don't ever let anybody tell you they're better than you, Forrest. If God intended everybody to be the same, he'd have given us all braces on our legs.
And she sleeps with the principal just to get him into school. I mean, there's helping, then there's a lot of helping. She is also there for him when Jenny leaves a bunch of times.
You come back safe to me. Do you hear?
We have the princess, the damsel in distress, the useless person in this scenario, because after watching loads of films about princesses and all this Snow White, all of that, you can see they don't do anything. They just stand there and look pretty and give the hero some sort of purpose or goal to reach. Jenny is a princess, but also kind of false because she always runs off and leaves Forrest. Princess, the whole scheme of the princess. Forrest and her are chilling on a tree. He mentions that his mum might get worried about him because it's getting late, and Jenny just asks him to stay a little bit longer, holds his hand, and he agrees to stay with her. And there's loads of scenes where Forrest basically says,
I wanted to be your boyfriend. You're my girl.
scenes like this, which help strengthen this, because the princess follows a love interest, of course. Anybody who's in a relationship, well, boys really, they'll say that there goes their princess or a queen or something along these lines. That's what the lady would mean to the guy, pretty much. Also, his description of Jenny when he first sees her on the school bus.
You can sit here if you want.
I had never seen anything so beautiful in my life. She was like an angel.
He says a lot of nice, affectionate things about her, which strengthens our view that she is the princess in this whole story. The false hero. Arguably, you can say Lieutenant Dan is the false hero in a sense, because there's a nice little bit of footage where Forrest comes off a TV show, and Lieutenant Dan's waiting there for him outside, and he's just there saying,
They gave you, an imbecile, a moron who goes on television and makes a fool out of himself in front of the whole damn country, the Congressional Medal of Honor. Well, that's just perfect.
it's all negative. In that sense, if you want to analyze it deeper, you can say that Lieutenant Dan is jealous of Forrest because he got that when he thinks he might have deserved it, because people in Lieutenant Dan's family has fought and died in every single American war, so he wanted to live up to something. Since he lived, he felt like he deserved it because he lived, maybe. Yeah, he lived. The captain of the platoon, he lived. After getting his legs clearly not blown off because they were still attached to him, just gotten rid of, really. Then we have the principal of the school Forrest's mom wants him to go to. He talks about Forrest being different and saying he's got a low IQ of 75. And he points to his mum on a graph saying he's below average. And then his mum, who's the helper, wants him to get into the school. So she's just saying,
What does normal mean anyway? He might be a bit on the slow side. But my boy Forrest is going to get the same opportunities as everyone else. He's not going to some special school to learn how to retread ties.
she just is defending him like a helper should, like a mother should, just laying down facts. And then she says there must be something that can be sorted out, pretty much. And then we have a nice little scene of the principal saying,
We don't want to see anybody left behind. Is that Mr. Gump? Mrs. Gump?
suggesting what we all know.
Well, your mama sure does care about your schooling, son.
So in that sense, he's the false hero because he's saying, oh, we don't want to see anybody left behind, being all sincere and caring. Even though he's only out for his own game, just to have this sexual contact with Forrest's mother. Here we have the hero, Forrest Gump. He's known to be a very stupid character. He is the main character of this film, thus the name Forrest Gump, really. We see him being the hero in many occasions throughout the film. We have this example of when he went to Vietnam and he ran through the forest. He was still running from the Viet Cong, and he just escaped, and he was the only one. It all went quiet. He stopped, and he just looked past the camera going that way. And he just mentioned his friend's name, Bubba. He just ran back through the forest, and he just started saving all of his platoon. Each one who was dying on the ground or just really badly wounded. He just run back, grab them, put them on his back and run out. We have a ton of examples of him being the hero. There was a scene where his very good friend Jenny, who's the princess and all of this, she was at college. She came back with this guy called Jimmy, and they were getting on in the car, and then she made a loud noise going ouch or something like that, and Forrest got up from waiting in the entrance of the college. He opened the car door and he just started pounding on Jimmy, which was really funny, acting as if he's the hero. He meant it in good intentions, but he couldn't comprehend exactly what was going on. Here we have the villain. The villain that I can see right now, he's brief. He's a little filler side character like the rest. There's Wesley, the guy who was in the Black Panther Party that Jenny brought Forrest to. When Wesley first lays eyes on Forrest, I think his first words were, "Who's the baby killer?" Because they're all righteous, they don't believe in the Vietnam War, they're all this or all peace. The villain, he hits Jenny. Forrest really doesn't like it. Forrest grounds and pounds him, beats him up, makes his nose or mouth bleed. I can't remember which one. There's going to be footage for that. So that is the main villain there, who actually gets a brief amount of lines, a good amount of lines. It's arguable that the Viet Cong is a big enemy to Forrest. I mean, come on, he went to Vietnam, he went to war. It's arguable that they are the villain to him personally because they killed his friend Bubba, his best friend that's there, and then they wiped out his whole platoon because he, as we know, he went in and saved them all, picked them up, carried them off to like the shore, the beach. The dispatcher. We have at least 2 decent dispatchers in this. There's not many, to be honest. There's not many. There's only 2. The 2 are the army guy. We don't know his name. After Forrest graduates from high school, I think, college. He graduates from college from his football or something along those lines. And then after he attends his graduation ceremony and after he receives the parchment, the certificate, he's walking off with his mum. She's telling him she's proud of him, something along the lines. And somebody from the army walks up to him and says something along the lines of,
"Congratulations, son. Have you given any thought to your future?"
So from there, he gives him a leaflet to join the army with Uncle Sam on that pointing. I think it said "America needs you" or something, because that's basically the lines of what those leaflets said back then, going back to my GCSE history. So from that, he dispatched him to go to the army. He joined the army. He met Bubba. He trained. Then he went to Nam. Bubba. He tells Forrest about his family being all about the shrimping business, having shrimping boats, knowing all there is about shrimp gumbo, shrimp this, shrimp that, all the things you can make out of shrimp. And he talks to Forrest about his dream, getting a boat, sailing out, shrimping, and he wants Forrest to be a part of that. Then Bubba died in Nam, and Forrest makes him a promise, and he just carries it on. He says he's gonna get a boat, and he's gonna go shrimping, and he does that. So that right there. That right there is the dispatcher, as we can see. On to the father. Forrest really looks up to this man. Whenever he sees him, he just shouts his name, just gets all happy and goofy like a child. This man is Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan, he was the captain of the platoon in Vietnam. He lost his legs. We know Forrest looks up to him to a good degree because Forrest says something along the lines of,
Lieutenant Dan sure knew his stuff. I felt real lucky he was my lieutenant.
And whenever Forrest sees Dan, he just gets over happy, shouts his name, gets really close to him. It's really nice to see. Lieutenant Dan, he's an angry kind of guy. He has his moments. He cares about Forrest deeply. I mean, as we see that he's the father, there was a scene where he's either in his flat or hotel room, and he brings some prostitutes to the room. Forrest is there. He doesn't want any part of it. He just throws the prostitute off of him.
What's your problem? What's your problem? Did you lose your packer in the war or something?
And then the one that's with Dan, who's on top of him, she says,
What is your friend stupid or something?
and then Dan just says, what did you say?
Said he's your friend stupid or something.
Don't call him stupid!
Hey, don't you push her!
You shut up! Don't you ever call him stupid!
Yeah, baby, why?
That's something that sums up the father-like capability. We have the scene where Forrest is steering his boat, just sailing it, and then he sees Lieutenant Dan. He jumps off the boat while it's still going and swims to shore and to the dock, and just talks to him, saying, what are you doing here? All happy. Lieutenant Dan just mentions that he got his letter and he'll be his first mate, as he promised. Also, a second father we have in here, as I've said, there's more than one role for a character. The second father would be Forrest, obviously, because at the end, well, near enough the end, maybe half an hour, Forrest finds out that he has had a kid with Jenny. His name's Forrest as well. And we see him, he wants to be there as a father. He was over the moon that he was a dad. We see that we see that he loves his son. The film ends necessarily where Forrest's past started, to an extent. Forrest's past, where everything comes together, is on the school bus. The movie ends sitting on a stump while the leaf blows off into a tracking shot, while his son gets on it, sees the old bus driver, and then they drive off. It all ends there, which is pretty deep to look into. It's a nice way to end the film, ending where Forrest's life near enough started, even though it wasn't a bench where Forrest was waiting for the bus, but it still ended with the whole leaf element, the whole leaf tracking shot blowing off into the wind. It's nice to look at, really. We have Equilibrium. That is Todorov's 5-part narrative. The balance, the disruption of balance, the noticing that the balance has been disrupted and an attempt to fix it, and then when the initial balance is restored. Sort of like yin and yang, for example. It's balanced as good and as the bad. It's all balanced, but the balance can be lost, gained, attempted to be gained, all of that. There's equilibrium throughout the film, really. There are certain parts where the balance is lost. For example, where the equilibrium meets disequilibrium. Jenny's singing in a brothel house or something like that, a little strip club. Forrest is there after coming back from service from the army before he goes to Vietnam. She's singing on stage with a guitar, and the crowd doesn't like that she's just there singing and not showing her body off, basically. So one guy tries to slip a dollar note into her shoe. She kicks his hand. He just goes back and he acts aggressive, and he just splashes over his cider or drink, alcoholic beverage or something like that. And then she just goes off, says, "Stupid jerk, I'm singing a song here." And then there's a whole disruption throughout the crowd. Then Forrest goes over, pushes the guy back, and pushes another guy back. He gets up, fireman carries Jenny off, like at least 3 steps towards the exit of the stage, and she just forces him to put her down, pushes him back, slams her guitar on his chest. This is a nice example of the false princess following, really. The princesses want to be rescued. She's ignoring that. She doesn't want to be rescued. So in that sense, she's not the full princess, maybe half and half, or more than ever, maybe 60-40 in a respect. Then we have the restore of balance, where they're on the bridge. She basically hitchhikes from the sky. Forrest tells her,
So bye-bye, Jenny. They sending me to Vietnam.
and then she hugs him after telling him to stay away from her. She hugs him and forgives him for messing up, basically, or just being himself.
Okay, just run away.
Okay.
Like the linear line at the start of the film, for example, the linear line. Everything in the story, basically, everything that's going to happen throughout the film, Forrest has in a bag or on his feet. We see everything traveling, even the feather. That's the linear, in a sense, almost. It's just B, A, C, D, and all of that, just everywhere, all distraught. There's no. It's all non-linear. It's not straight. Overall, throughout Forrest Gump, I can say that the whole movie, the whole plot of it follows Todorov's theory and Prop's theory. They follow the theories that is necessary from what I'm looking at. It follows a narrative. There's disruption of balance. There's noticing the balances being disrupted by Forrest just looking surprised or going really quiet like a kid who's just done something really wrong. Then attempt to fix it by either saying I love you, or they're sending me to Vietnam, or or saying you're my girl, maybe. He just says a lot of things just to calm the mood. Most of it works pretty much, and there's always equilibrium throughout the film until a few scenes like I have mentioned. And it follows Prop's theory to a great extent. That we have the eight. We have the hero, the villain, the donor, the dispatcher, the false hero, the helper, the princess, the father. All things that were necessary throughout the film. Some things were harder to pick out than others, but we found what we need for all of this pretty much. We found everything for the narrative, the structure, the prop theory, the Todorov's theory. This follows a nice basic line of what we need. Through all this analyzation of my notes, I found what I need for this film. Hope you enjoyed my vlog, my first vlog, yeah.